Hey family, welcome back to our 4th episode of Hey Sis, Let's Talk. And tonight we are talking about protection. Hey sis, do you feel protected? I am Kelly Allen Gray, Executive Director of AIDS Outreach Center, and it is a delight to be here with these amazing women. Three of them you have seen before, three of us you have seen before. We have 2 new panelists, and in just a few moments, they are going to tell you who they are. But let's talk about Hey Sis. It is a no membership, candid conversation with women who look just like you, who share your concerns, your feelings, have your ups, your downs, your highs, your lows, your laughs, your sorrows. We are your girlfriends, your sisters, your co-workers, your shopping buddies. That's who we are. We are all right here to talk about all of the things that you want to know about and maybe you don't have the courage to say. We are funded by UNT Health Science Center as we work to promote our PrEP program and getting Black women on PrEP because we know that your sexual health is very, very important, and we want to remove and alleviate the HIV epidemic. And then we're also funded by the Melanated Movement through the CDC, and because of that, we get to have these amazing conversations. So before I move further, I have to give a shout out to my girl, Shelby Williams, who is our development coordinator, because we can't do this without Shelby keeping us on track. My Kia from OCG, who is the one who sends us a million emails and tells us, you can't say that, Miss Kelly. I think you're going to get canceled. Well, y'all, listen, the truth is the truth, and you cannot cancel the truth. And then a huge shout out to Adrian Carroll from Adrian Carroll Photography, who makes sure that our videos are the truth. And so I'm turning it over to my girl, Stay Hall from iSalt, who is going to facilitate this conversation and lead us the rest of the way. Hey, sis.
Hey, sis. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. As Kelly said, this is our 4th episode, and we are going strong, and the conversations are getting deeper and deeper and more passionate. And today, we're talking about, hey, sis, do you feel protected? And I know it's AIDS Outreach Center, so they might be thinking about, do you feel protected as far as sexually? But no, we're talking about, do you feel protected as a being? And I just want to share with y'all a quote from Malcolm X. The most disrespected person in America is the Black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the Black woman. The most neglected person in America is the Black woman. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we take a deep dive into this conversation, I just want to make sure that we have all of our panelists just give a short introduction. As Kelly said, I'm Stay Hall. I am the CEO of iSalt, Institute for Success and Leadership Training. You can find me everywhere on all social media at Stay Hall. I am an executive coach and all of those things, but I'm going to go ahead and start to my left. If you can please just give us a brief introduction.
Sure. Hey, everyone. I'm Dr. Amber Reed. I'm currently serving as a research analyst at the AFIA Center in downtown Dallas. I'm kind of new to the Dallas area. I come here from Atlanta, Georgia, from the Black School of Thought that I call the Atlanta University Center, where I did my training, where I did my studies. I have long history in mental health, research on Black communities' wellness, and I'm passionate about all things that promote that.
Start with you, Tracy.
Hi, I'm Tracy Scott. I am an administrative and strategic professional, and for this conversation, I am founder of the Black Women's PAC, which is the first PAC in the state of Texas, targeted and geared towards supporting Black women.
Yes.
All right.
Hey sis, well y'all know me, Dr. L, and I am the CEO and founder of DBL Connections and Epiphany, which is about empowering and encouraging Black women. I am a licensed counselor, a coach, forensic expert, and all those great things. And, your first lady here, doing all that, but loving life. Yeah.
Loving life. Well, hey, sis, to each and every one of you. Hey, sis. So I want to kind of open the conversation with you, Dr. Reed. We're talking about, do Black women feel protected? And I would like for you just to kind of give us the opening of, what does it mean to feel protected, and what exactly is it that we're talking about? I just gave us that quote from Malcolm X, but if you could just expound upon that and where the Black woman kind of finds herself on the totem pole.
I'm gonna do my best, right? And really, I'm just gonna give my perspective on it. When I think about what it means to be protected, for me, that's what it means to feel safe, to feel seen, to feel heard, to be able to feel at home inside yourself, inside your community, and inside the larger world around you. So I think we can look at what we see, what we have access to in media, what we have access to in research. Even if we just think about the stories that we hear when we talk, right, with each other, generally, I think Black women, we haven't found that sense of safety, right, and that sense of home in various places. In some ways, it was never really meant for us to achieve that here in the United States. The whole premise of how most Black people arrived here through the system of enslavement, never imagined that we would be here for anything besides our labor and our reproduction and what our bodies could give into a capitalist system. And so it was never the intention of the people who founded this country to offer us protection. And we can see systemically the ways we still grapple with that today. But I do think through spaces like this, through spaces like the Afia Center, we have our sororities, we have our faith-based organizations. We're finding our way and doing our best to create those spaces.
Yeah, I love that. And the thing is, when you talk about protection, most of the time we kind of think of protection as being protected from one specific thing or one entity. So we get vaccinations to protect ourselves from disease. We use certain precautions when having sexual encounter to protect ourselves from maybe unwanted pregnancies or other diseases. But for the Black woman, it seems like we just have no protection to exist. It's almost like I think we can take out the word protection and it's like, hey sis, do you feel like anybody has your back?
Yeah.
Is anybody supporting you? Is anybody your champion? And we fall so low where it seems like nobody really cares how we're treated, what's said. It's like something can happen and it's like, oh, it was a Black woman, oh, we good, just keep moving. And I think that's what I really want to drive home to our audience is that, we just don't feel protected at all. And so I want to talk to you, Tracy, as a political facilitator and founder of the Black Women's PAC. What has been your experience as a Black woman in the political landscape? Because right now we know we're in the midst of this huge campaign and election. And what I have hated to see that no matter what side you fall on, I still feel that the fact that we have a Black woman who is running for president, she gets so many shots, so many things that are coming against her that don't even have anything to do with politics that I don't think would happen if she wasn't a Black woman. So can you just expound upon that and your experience in politics?
Okay, well, first I want to say that the things that are happening to Vice President Harris are no different than the things that happen to us on a daily basis. So her experience is just, nationally, on the political platform, and everybody's aware of it. But, we can go with, Karen at work. Well, not Karen. Let's not do Karen. Some Karens, not all Karens. Carissa, yeah. Carissa at work, is having that same experience of, not feeling protected, of, people just coming at you for personal reasons. Yeah. So when I started with the Black Women's PAC, which PAC is a political action committee, which is a fundraising vessel to help Black women get elected to public office, That was really, it was a daunting task, yes. But first there was the conversation of what a political action committee is. So now I'm asking for Black women for money. So now I'm asking women who don't feel protected, who are struggling, and who don't even understand that voting is not the last stop to getting your voice heard and getting, policies that protect you, within the political landscape. So let's see, starting the Black Women's PAC was a bit difficult. When the highs were highs, of course, everybody's rolling with you. It's great, it's a new thing, let's do it, da-da-da-da. And then you start, figuring out that, you're not really protected in that space. You're not protected by your friends, by your peers, by your, people who you think are your friends. And that becomes a real challenge, especially when you're trying to do something that's so important. So I can say that that's a politically it's a difficult space. So I will also add that I think that and this is going to be a challenging statement, but I think that honestly the best thing that could come out of Kamala Harris being elected as president is that other people learn to vote for Black women. Because if you look at the political landscape and you look where Black women are elected, they're elected in Black spaces. On the city council level, you're elected to a district that's Black, predominantly, by far. You run into the small ones like Retta Bowers, who here in Texas is the state representative, and her district is predominantly white. But outside of that, you don't find Black women that are elected in spaces that aren't Black, and Black men as well. So do we feel protected? No. Because if we're the only ones that are voting for us, or you're only given a choice for your people to vote for you, then that says a lot about being protected. And then when you're running in white spaces, how many people, Black people, actually, totally different conversation. But being protected is politically is it's hard because you're putting yourself out there. Yeah. And I would hope that people would actually look at candidates for the boldness that they're actually stepping out, exposing themselves, exposing their families, and actually wanting to do something good for the community, and that the community would actually understand that and protect them and support them in doing so.
Okay, so I have a question in thinking about that, because when we talk about Vice President Harris, we talk about her from a point of view of white America. And we don't always talk about her as Black people. We don't talk about her, I feel like, from the point of view of Black America. How we have this amazingly smart woman who happens to be Black running for president of the United States. And you have us as Black people, Black women, which irks me to no end when someone says, well, I don't like, she hasn't done anything as vice president. Well, really, what does the vice president do?
Right.
That's
How many
that
vice
part.
presidents?
How many? It's
So,
that.
They the vice.
Right.
Right.
You know,
Support the president. That's it.
she hasn't done anything as vice president, or I don't understand her platform, or you come up with, or this was my best one because I think she wears the best suits ever.
Yes.
I don't like her suit. I don't like how she dresses. So that's what we got for the vice president of the United States, and then the fact that we call her by her first name, and we negate the fact that she is the vice president.
And the fact that she ran for president.
Right.
So I don't know how you miss what her platform is or what she stands for when she actually ran for president and told you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and that's just, 4 years ago. So she ran for president recently and told you everything that she stood, what she wanted to do with the economy, what she thought about America, what she thought about Black America, all of those things were talked out. And then here we are 4 years later and you act like you don't even know this lady. I mean, that's just, again, I think excuses. I think that you are, we do a lot of treating people how we have been treated. Hurt people hurt people.
Yes.
And I think that we should hold ourselves accountable more and hold each other accountable more to do a better job in protecting each other.
Absolutely.
And that is financially, that is, in confidence, that is, I can give you an example. One evening I was at this barbecue place and I was leaving a fundraiser and I had a flat tire. And this black couple, prominent black couple, walk out of the restaurant, past me. It's getting dark. Neither one of them said, "Hey, do you need anything? You need some help?" I'm a single black woman outside with a flat tire. And you all walk past me and don't say a word and go get in your car. And you black. And you have resources, because you clearly have resources, because we know who they are. And so,
Who
you
are
know,
they?
who, okay.
Right. I was like, I can't wait for this to go off.
I could say.
Just thought
Wait
I'd
a
ask.
minute.
Just thought
How
I'd
I
ask.
wish I could say. But, so that's, being protected. That's somebody at least having concern. Do you have AAA?
Yeah.
It's not like you had to change the tire,
Right.
but, can you at least say something that
Yes.
helps the situation or makes me know that someone noticed me here by myself outside, that kind of thing.
Right.
So,
So we have talked a lot about Vice President Kamala Harris, and we talked about the lack of support and some of the things that are being said about her. And so, Dr. Lakedra, I definitely want to come back to you on some of the things that we were going to talk about, but at this time, I want you to put on your mental health professional hat and kind of give us some insight on why you feel that it is so difficult for Black women to support other Black women, because us as a whole, as a race, we don't feel supported and we feel like we've been through so much. But again, the Black woman is the lowest in the food chain. And from what I've seen, what breaks my heart, where we should all be together because we're all in this same fight. We have a lot of the same experiences, even as the vice president, soon to be president. But we are some of our harshest critics and worst enemies. And so from a mental health perspective, because I would only have to assume that there's some kind of mental health issue, some kind of past trauma. Can you give us some insight on that?
Just like you said, it's a lot of past trauma, a lot of being told you are not good enough. You are never going to be anything. You're never going to make it. And so it's like when you do get in a position where you feel like you have gained some type of success or some type of notoriety, and you feel like someone is coming to impose on that or bringing you some type of challenge, like you're gonna take my place. It's like now I'm in a mode of, no, you don't know. My whole life I done had to fight. Like Oprah said,
All
you
my
know,
life I had to
whole
fight.
life I had to
Yes.
fight. So now, not you, not you, and you look
Yeah.
like me. So instead of saying, you know what, sis, I've been where you are. Let's do this together. Let's uplift each other. What you want to do, you want to make sure that that person never gets to the level that you are. And it's that mentality that we all can get there. I had to do it the hard way, so why should I help you? You know, and I've seen I've counseled ladies like that. They've actually told me, well, how did you make it, Dr. L? Well, honey, just because you looking like it looked good, it looked easy, it definitely wasn't easy. But because they don't know the struggle, they assume that they're the only ones that have it.
Right.
They assume they're the only ones that been in abusive relationships, the only ones that have had to, work 2 or 3 jobs while still taking care of children, only ones that had to, drop out of school and then try to go again, and then that didn't work out because the funding didn't come through, and then I have to do this again. So now, where it seems like you're trying to invade on my doorstep and in my space, that's not it. So it's like this mentality that they have really put up for themselves, that it's I always say, an invisible competition. Because
there'd be so many house niggas.
yes,
so many.
so
Right,
many,
right.
so
Yeah.
many.
Yeah.
We all can't.
Yeah.
We all can't make it together. And when you look at other cultures, just studying cultural diversity, a lot of times they come together and they're working together, they're helping each other, you know, in their, because we see it in our own families.
Yeah.
You know, amongst, you know, sisters, amongst cousins, mother, daughters. It's like, whoa.
Right.
You know, and it's just because I do feel like a lot of it is that slave mentality. Like only one of us can make it. And
Right. And it's
can't
funny
get
when
around
you
it.
mention, like, you know, in our own families and mother daughter. I feel like at the foundation of it, our mothers, grandmothers, and whatever, they wanted to see us do better than them, but it's like,
Yes.
but not too much.
Not
too much.
Because now
need
you
to
think
take
you
it
all
back.
that.
Exactly.
And you need to remember where you came from.
Exactly.
You know, it's always that type of thing. You better remember where you came from.
That's a
you
deep
know,
statement.
yeah,
rather
you
than being proud of where you came
yes.
from.
You know,
Yes.
we still have a lot of firsts. We have a lot of firsts that are, you know, first graduates of college and all of that stuff.
And it's 2024.
Right.
Yes.
We're having
Yes.
first.
Yes.
Why
We're
are we
having
still
first.
saying that for stuff that has been going on
Yes.
for hundreds of years? We're
Yes.
still having not only the first Black woman, the first Black person. And a lot of times, and this might not be politically correct to say, we still have people that are biracial, that it's not this actual Black person because they still are not ready to accept
Yes.
a 100% Black person.
They're not.
And
A
so,
Black American. Yes.
exactly, exactly.
Okay, Dr. Reed,
I see it on your face.
Yes, and I need to be sitting here so I can see
What you got to say?
because I was coming to it next, but whatever you got, sis.
Yeah.
I was just thinking it's a really complex thing, right? Because there is some trauma involved. Like
Yeah.
you said, there is a lot of mentality, and there's a scholar, Joyce DeGruy, there's a whole bunch of scholars who talk about this, but in the book Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, like she talks about a lot of the
love that book.
psychological impacts
Yes.
on the Black community after enslavement. And it gets tricky because some of these things that are to our detriment now once served a purpose.
Yes.
Like there was a way that people felt like they might need to humble their kids or not let you get too haughty or on your high horse. Because if you're supposed to be walking around with your head down and
Yeah.
your eyes lowered, doing that, your life literally depended
Yeah.
on it. Or there were a lot of politics of desirability, right, that came with the whole institution of enslavement that would maybe impact someone's self-worth and maybe if they see someone being desired over them or being
Yep.
affirmed or validated more than them, kind of puts that tension and then creates that competitive spirit because really what people are craving is the need of giving that,
Yes.
getting that validation and that self-worth and that affirmation there. I think the challenge is because that's so deeply embedded, not being aware of it, we mistakenly perpetuate it until we like make the conscious choice to do something different.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. I
heard the deep breath. I was like, what's going on?
Yes.
But at some point, and I told my kid this, and I said this, at some point, we are so far in theory, let me say that.
Yeah.
In theory, we are so far removed from slavery.
Yes.
What point do we start to change the narrative, right? Because we have the opportunity to change the narrative. So as I sit here and I look at us, and Dr. Reed, I don't know how old you are, but what I do know is that we are the first generation of educated women post civil rights.
Yeah.
We are that group of women who we went to integrated schools. You know, maybe we got bused. I got bused to this school that I was like, ma'am, why are you sending me over here? I don't want to be over here. I want to be with my friends.
Yes.
Right.
But we are that group. And so we are that group too that still had to figure out how to work within those boundaries, still be smart, still be outgoing, still be mannerable, still be pleasant, still be all of these things so that this next generation coming behind us can cancel a whole culture.
I mean, counsel.
Yes.
You know,
It's like,
can cancel
what?
a whole
Yes,
culture.
yes.
You know, so we are that group of people who built the foundation for that next group of people to come behind us and that next group of people to come behind. So if you're a Gen Zer, Xer, millennial, whatever, you're built on us as we are built on baby boomers, right?
Yeah.
And so, but we should be able to at some point change the narrative. And we're struggling to change the narrative. It just feels like we want to hold on. Tracy said to me the other day in a conversation, she said, this is the first time in my life that I feel protected by my sister group.
And I'm gonna say, I think because we got to a point, because I feel like we got to a point at one point, like you said, something like sororities, like my sorority sisters and, your church faith, your sisters, and you coming together. And I think it started to break off again when social media started coming into play so big.
Because there's that competition piece
Yes,
again.
because now the younger generation, like you said, that was built off of us, they weren't really raised like that because we weren't raised like that. We were, we came off the baby boomers, we came off the parents working hard, and now we're going to college and we're getting this and we're being exposed to just so much that they didn't get exposed to. And now the generation behind us they're blowing the charts of the exposure, but instead of it being in a positive way, we're growing as a community, as Black women, it has turned into another competition. Who's gonna get the most likes? Who's gonna do this? And it's like, it's not about, we're in this together, we're building this foundation together, we're coming up because our parents made it easy for us. And we did, and we made it a little bit too easy for us. Because they didn't have to get out there and work hard. We put them in the right neighborhoods, they went to the right schools, they didn't have to get bust over there, like you're over there with your people. They already over there. They friends is multicultural. They coming in and doing all this. But then now it's a whole nother competition.
Interesting. So I'm one generation from, my grandmother was a domestic. And she moved from Alabama, and she and my grandfather moved from Alabama, and they were sharecroppers. And they would never talk about their experience. Mm-hmm. So I have no idea what that was really like.
Yes.
But I knew what to avoid. And so now my mom was educated. My mom my mom passed for white, but let's not talk about that part. Mm. She was still Black. But I think that once I saw her struggle, she was single parent, 5 kids. I'm the oldest. So once I could see her struggle, I remember it. I recognize it and I respect it. But when I stepped out of high school, I remember thinking the world was unfolding like as if, these blocks were just rolling. But, you go out there, you figure it out. But it's a struggle. It's a constant struggle. You're constantly being ditched and, hit from this side and hit from that side. And I just think that we did that silently and didn't share the obstacles. Mm-hmm. We charged through it because we felt like we were we had to make it. We had to do this for the next step and be strong. Mm-hmm. I think that is our superpower now because we code switched, because we know how they live, we know how we live. Mm-hmm. We had to go to work with the white folks, but you came home to Black people. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we have I think that's our superpower now, that we know what it's like on the inside and on the outside. But I think the silence is what was the issue, that we were so busy working and so busy doing it, so busy trailblazing and providing for our kids and hiding from them what it was really like to be in the workforce, what it was really like to go buy a car, what it was, making sure that you don't get swindled or you don't get charged a higher interest rate, or that you get the job, or that you get the office and they don't pass you over to give it to the white, which happened to me before, and I had to speak up on that, but anyway. But the slickness.
I want to be around for Tracy's like the next story.
Yeah,
right. That's another story. I want to be around for the next story, but no story. Okay.
But and I always felt like, and this is just a personal moment, but I always felt like I had to do that because the next step had to be taken. Mm-hmm. And my daughter had to have a different experience and be comfortable and be okay with being herself.
Yes.
You know, I don't think that my protection was not being allowed to be who I was innately and figure that out without struggle, without having to make it at the same time, without having to be in survival mode. So I'm trying to figure out who I am, definitely have my own place, definitely go to work and deal with white people and all of this switches and changes and all of that kind of stuff. But then, you know, still look after my mom, still pay attention to what my siblings were doing, you know, and was I safe coming home at night, and how could I party and how could I do, you know, all of these things. So I think that if we, you know, talk about protection, it's like, are you protected to be innately who you are, who you were put on this planet to be? What is your superpower? What are you best at?
And to that question, like the thought of how do we do that for each other, like how do we protect each other? And to your question of how do you shift a narrative, you can't shift an invisible narrative. Like I 100% agree. And my parents and my grandparents are the generation that you all are talking about. And I also have training in history and public history, doing a lot of oral histories with elders who lived through that era, still alive. But they tell me about what it was like. So I didn't live through it. But what I have heard are from conversations. But there are also conversations that didn't happen until I started asking the questions.
Oh, yeah.
And I adjunct at Morehouse College for a while, where it's the same thing with my students. There was a whole lot about African American history and even the things we're talking about, even when it comes to Black women and women in general. And again, that's a whole different conversation that they just didn't know and they weren't being taught, because in our families, we're not talking about it. The legislation is now saying, particularly as it relates to Black people, we can't talk about it, especially in school. So then how do we call out or start to change a narrative that we're like really not even aware is present? And so I think that's the first part of shifting it, is intergenerationally, we've got to start like doing better at sharing the stories, talking about the painful and the hurtful and the gritty parts of it. There's a quote that says something like, if you don't talk about your pain, they'll kill you and say you enjoyed it.
Yes.
And as Black women, for various reasons, a lot of us for survival, we tend to hold ours and we don't, we're even thinking about, if we talk about it, is that going to be putting the burden of holding it onto somebody else? And we don't want to do that to our kids and we don't want to do that to our whoever. But it kind of creates this dynamic of we have this continuous narrative that we're not acknowledging.
And that's why I honestly believe when we took them into their safe space, because we were able to make a better life for them, at some point we almost hurt them.
We did.
Yes.
I agree.
Okay, I got one comment.
Okay,
Because I'm
go
going to
ahead.
step back politically.
Go ahead.
Politically, let me say this. When we leave our community and we go move into the white neighborhood because it's better schools, mind you, they didn't fund the schools in our neighborhood. So that was why you left.
Yeah, yeah, it was a reason.
Then
yeah.
two, to buy some, then the economic, struggle in our neighborhood. So you left, but you also diluted the voting block. So now you move to a white neighborhood where there are now 200, 300, 5,000 of y'all, but there's 25, 30,000 of them. So how will you ever get a representative that speaks for your life if you are in a community that you don't have the majority?
Right.
Yeah.
And you didn't build and I'm not being accusatory, I'm just saying this, is that we didn't stay and focus because you're always being tricked. You know, you're always being led this carrot. Come over here, we got some good shit for ya. But what you needed, what would have, I think, would have helped us is to stay, build in our neighborhood, make them improve our schools, because our voting block would have counted. Do the good things, bring our money back home, bring it back to our community. And, I don't know what would have happened to Ray, Bobo, and all of them. I don't know. But that would have, I think we would be further along politically had we built our block.
But if you think about it, there wasn't a Ray and a Bobo.
Yeah.
Ray and Bobo didn't really exist. Not in the way that we see them now. or that we see any of the things that we're seeing in our neighborhood. And you say we left. I moved back to the neighborhood that I grew up in. And then the big conversation was, why you moved to the hood? Okay, I moved back to the hood. First of all, I didn't even know it was the hood.
Right,
That's the first thing.
That part.
I didn't know it was the hood.
Home.
I live in the hood. Oh, okay. Because I know everybody in the neighborhood.
It's like, I didn't know those projects, they just look like apartments.
Right. Oh,
Yes.
okay. Heck, I didn't even know I was poor till I went off to college, right? You're like, oh, shit, y'all got that kind of stuff. I didn't know you had that kind of stuff.
I didn't know you needed it.
Right. Didn't have a clue. But the people who, let me say, not my people, my late husband's people said, you live in the hood. Why y'all live in the hood? You make a whole bunch of money. Why you live in the hood? And then, one by one, they lost their stuff other places or had to downsize. And I said, aren't you glad we stayed in the hood? You know, because they were in his ear like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, you're here. That's where you live. But I like where I live. I know my neighbors.
I was like, quite frankly, you're very protected in your neighborhood.
I really am.
Yes.
And so, I know my neighbors on one corner, they're Trumpers. They be like, hey, good morning, how you doing, Miss Kelly? Hey, how y'all doing? I know if I'm sitting outdoors at 2 a.m, one of them is sitting outdoors at 2 a.m. because they see me outdoors. But you would have the whole world think that we're going to be at war. And that's not so. But I want to do a switch.
Okay, I was going to switch, but you can
I want
switch.
to do a switch.
Go ahead.
Because we've talked about protection, in our sister circles, but I want to talk about protection in our relationships. Our male-female relationships, our female-female relationships, our female-female-male relationships, whatever those relationships look like.
Yeah.
What does that protection look like?
Right, yeah. So for me, being in a traditional male-female relationship, protection for me means like what I started with, having my back no matter what. Always presenting as a united front, and then knowing that you don't only respect me because I'm your wife, knowing that you have a general respect for all women and Black women in particular. Not just going along with the joke just because you want to fit in with your boys. Because no matter how old you are, there's still some sense of peer pressure. I want you to be the one to stand up and say, that's not right, this picture's not cute, don't send me that stuff. That's what protection means for me, to know that my husband, no matter where we are, who we're around, you don't have a problem standing up for a Black woman. Because I know if you'll stand up for other Black women, you for sure will stand up for me.
No, we're going to you.
I right now am a single woman. When I think about romantic relationships, I think I've always felt physically protected for the most part, but the protection of my heart sucked, which is why I'm single at the moment. And even in some familial and some platonic friendship relationships, that's been the case too. But I do think what's true of most of my relationships is that people offered the protection they could in the best way they knew how, with the tools that they had. And I think we're all, kind of just like navigating to be our best. And then also when I think about how I contributed to some of the tensions in various relationships, there was places where I didn't protect myself simply by like not setting boundaries. And so the expectation that people would protect those when I didn't even have them there, that falls on me.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to weigh in on that?
So you said something. You said, I always felt physically protected, but not always emotionally protected, and even in some cases that means mentally protected. And the other day I was having, I spent $1 million on therapy. I'm the wrong person to have gone to therapy because I use all of my therapy. Every last one.
As you should.
That's what
Right for
but it's wonderful for me. It is horrible for the next person, right? Because I be like, yeah, we're not doing that. So in therapy, one of the things that I learned, because you will say something crazy to me, and I just won't say anything. In my head, I'll be thinking, this. Right. We all know what that meant. We all know what that meant the other night.
We all heard it the other night.
And then I'll just be like, and keep it moving. Well, because I didn't check you right then and say all of those other words that should have come out of my mouth. I just gave you a look and kept it moving. You thought it was okay to keep doing whatever it was that you were doing. And then when I finally just be like, well, I just doggone it. Let me tell you, let me go on and tell you how I really feel. Then you're like, what happened? I can't believe you saying that. You know, you make it be about me versus it being about you. So not long ago, I was having this conversation and I said, I didn't like the way you made me feel when you said blah, 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 blah. And then it became, I learned what gaslighting was in counseling. I didn't know that was a whole right. I didn't know that was a whole word.
Yes.
And so I said, so now we're going to gaslight. And then we're going to be passive aggressive on top of this.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that's what
So you
we
give them
not
all the
doing.
words.
Right. I'm telling you, counseling has been like this major thing. And so it just, the whole car blew up.
Yeah.
Because it was so unexpected. First of all, you didn't expect that. Because obviously in your other relationships or whatever it is that you've done, you've been able to do that. And everyone just let you make it. And now you're not going to get to make it.
Right.
And so you don't know how to have a critical conversation. So let's have it.
Yeah.
Because I think the onus always comes back to women.
Right.
You know,
we're supposed to make it okay.
Right. It's just supposed to be okay. And then when I call you out on it, you choose something to blow up this fight, to turn it into something else, versus just being an adult and having a critical conversation.
Yep.
Everybody can agree to disagree.
Right, but it's been
But let's
made
have
so
a
easy
conversation.
because we're the angry black woman.
Yes.
All we want to do is argue. All we want to do is call people out.
We're
And so it's just been,
emotional.
we're
never
emotional.
take accountability.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's easy to always turn it
So
on
we
us.
switch it.
You
Yeah.
have that critical conversation.
So let me ask a question. I don't know, so I'm honestly asking this question. What do you think about the fact that women have blazed a trail that black men haven't, and that we have a clearer understanding of what's out there? We've had more interaction with people who are triggering. We've had to check ourselves in spaces just to make it. And black men have not had that same experience. Not all, but some. So when we are considered the angry or argumentative or all those other negative things, we're only speaking to our experience and the expectation of us. So when we throw it out there and that's the expectation of them, is that the challenge? Or is that their challenge? Is that, it's an invisible thing. So I don't know that it's,
Right.
I'm seriously asking.
Is it invisible?
But I think
because
about
my
it.
mom used to say all the time, black women raise their daughters and love their sons. And so, because we have loved our sons, they get a pass on a whole lot
So
of
they
stuff.
get a pass from the beginning.
They
from
get a
and
pass.
continue to pass.
And I
They
think
get
there's
pass.
also a lot of different dynamics, right? So we're talking about the difference between men and women, which is going to surpass all race and nationalities. It's just men and women are different, and women are innately more emotional, we're more nurturing, we have more feelings, and men just are not that way. But then when you deal with the black man, who has gone through a lot of the things that black women have gone through, but they push those feelings down. And so because they're men, but they're also black men, it's like our black men have been beaten down for many, many years, gone through so much, but they pushed it down and they don't deal with it. And their way is just to ignore it. And they become angry, but they keep it in. But as women, we've gone through these things, but we're going to feel these things. We're going to process it. We're going to move forward, and we try to bring them along with us, and they don't want any parts of it. It's like, I just want to sit here, be quiet, ignore all of it. And the more we say, then instead of them jumping on with us, they're like, no, that's too much. I can't take that. You're doing too much. Because they don't want to feel the feelings. And I think that has a lot to do with it.
And I think by having that conversation, what you just said, with them, and that's like that critical conversation, because they push it down and they get angry, and sometimes that anger is put on the black woman, back to us, and that's when you start dealing with the physical abuse, the mental abuse, the emotional abuse, because they have been beat down so much out there. And then when they come home and it's an issue at home and we want to have these conversations, it's like, woman, I ain't got time for this. You sounding just like them people out there to them, instead of having that critical conversation and saying, listen, this is not working. We're not each other's enemy. Like when we're in a space, for me and Pastor's in a space, he quick to tell me, baby, I'm not the enemy. And get back for where we are. This is us. We're here. We're dealing with this. All that stuff outside. And I think that when we start talking to them like that, because sometimes we're very strong-minded, and sometimes we can go on a whole nother level, a whole nother this, and they're not hearing that, because we are sounding like the outside world and not their protectors. Because like you said, raise your daughters, love your sons. So if they grew up in a home when their mother did that, they're going to expect their wife to do the same thing.
But how do I be soft? How do I come home soft? And
when you're out there slaying
I can't come home and be soft. Okay. I can't come home and be soft. And you have this expectation that I'm gonna be soft. And I walk through the door and there's stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
And your first question to me is, what's for dinner? What? I don't have time. I don't feel.
But that's where I come in. That's where I come in with the soft skills and emotional intelligence.
Yeah, you
and
see,
we
right
have
there,
to
you got to go to counsel up and stay now.
Yes. So you had regular mental counseling because that's what we need to learn. The empathy, the effective communication, and just kind of taking that beat and
on him or on me.
It has to go both ways. It has to go both ways.
We are essentially asking for the same.
Thank you for that question.
Yes, exactly. We just want to be heard. We want to feel valued. And sometimes because we both are going through so much, we don't articulate that in the right way. And we speak before we think, and we don't choose our words, and we don't choose our tone. Because the message can be 100% right, but if the delivery is wrong, then it's falling on deaf ears.
I've been told that a lot.
Yeah, and it has a lot. And that's why I tell people
that attitude,
effective communication is the key. Because people want to say, well, I'm a good communicator. I express what I need. I say, but is your communication effective? And it's only effective if the person that you're communicating with is receiving what you want them to receive.
Can you say it without malice or attitude? Like, there's still a way to say what you need, or even say what your critique is, but be honorable in it. And I feel like that's where the tension comes in. You add that to, you have two parties, because the reality is, being black in this place, like, none of us are protected to express what we feel. And so we have this thing, I feel like, going on right now where like black men are saying, well, we don't feel protected, and black women are saying, well, we don't feel protected. And the reality is, it's a mirror, because none of us feel protected. And so we can take a moment, somebody said that, to get past that frustration and then communicate the protections you need. Because even that might vary. The protection I might need when I'm walking home is, I don't need to see all this stuff on the floor. I don't need you asking me for dinner right away. Like, I need to protect my peace by just like, can we have a, hey, how are you? I missed you. Like, whatever that looks like, but can you articulate that honorably?
And a lot of times it's having the conversation past the emotions.
Right.
Be angry in that moment, then go in your room,
Yeah.
scream in the pillow, whatever, but just have the conversation at a later date. We never want to talk about it when we're at the height of our emotion. But I want to make sure that we talk about a couple of things before we end for the evening. And so we've talked about our families. We've talked about being a Black woman in the workforce. But Dr. Lakeisha, I want to talk about being a Black woman in the church, because that is such a huge part. That's such a huge part of who we are, right? So church.
All right, here's to Dr. L.
We got to talk about it.
Y'all made me drop my whole little mic thing. Hold on, let me get this back on here.
I'm waiting on you.
Yeah,
girl.
okay.
Waiting on you.
Can y'all hear me still? Okay.
Because for so many of us in our community, the church has been our foundation. It's supposed to be our soft place to fall. And I don't necessarily think that that's what it's always been for us, and definitely not as the first lady of a church. And so I wanted to address this question to you as the first lady of a church. Do you feel that the church community protects you? Do you feel like you are actually respected as a leader? Just what does that look like? Because the church is supposed to be our place of refuge. And so how does that feel as being a first lady?
I would definitely say at the beginning, no, absolutely not. I felt hurt and broken by a lot of people at the church. When you feel like, just being first on the outside, and you just think you go to church, everyone is supposed to be loving, and then you get with the pastor, and all deals are off. It's like every hoochie mama, every this, you at everybody's conversation at the dinner table, and you like, whoa, and it's no regard to you as a woman, as a person, as a mother, because I have a son. None of that. I felt like it did begin to change when my husband stepped forward and was like, yeah, no, this is not what it's going to be.
You felt like, or it did?
It did. It didn't just turn around like that, but it became, because we have counseled other pastors and first ladies, and he has always said, people are going to respect and treat your wife how they see you treat her, how they see you protect her, how they see. So that was real big. Now I feel like I do have a loving congregation. Not gonna lie and say, oh, y'all love me and like me, but I have a loving congregation, that does respect me. And I found that by people really getting to know who you are, because the church is like a community in itself.
It's a silo.
Yes. And it is so many, broken individuals and hurt individuals that, are sitting in the pews Sunday after Sunday, that are trying to deal with their own things. Sometimes I used to be like, did she even listen to the sermon? How's she gonna be so hateful to me? But then when I started to really take myself out of it, and like you said, hurt people, and really that it's something much deeper than that. It has nothing to do with me. And start seeing that this person right here needs extra love. And at one point, I needed extra love. And so I felt like how we came together as women in our women's ministry is like recognizing that sometimes small groups are needed, so they can feel like I have an outlet and it's not going to go anywhere else.
Yes.
Because I hate to hear the word church hurt. I mean, the church is a building. You were hurt by people, not the church. God is unchanging. He's not out here to hurt us. Do we go through some painful things? Yes. The word of God said that as long as we're alive, we will. But it does not, but did he hurt us? No, people hurt us. And so I think that once getting to that point and understanding that everyone is not going to be on your team, and that's okay, but as Black women, I think the biggest thing, especially in a community like that, because you too was a first lady, is the respect. When I crossed Delta, and my big sister, it was like this big thing that she would say, you have to not only respect the person, you have to respect the position.
Yes.
Like you said, people out here calling this lady Kamala, like that's their homegirl. Respect the position. And as the community and the church, I think sometimes we get away from that because we feel like, we own the pastor, we own the church, we own this. And no, you don't.
And I think sometimes there's an unfair expectation of the first lady. And I think there's a lot of similarity to where we were talking about love your sons and raise your daughters. It's almost the same in the church. Love the pastor and raise the first lady. And it speaks a lot when you have a husband who will stand up there and say, I have her back. Because I know for me, my husband stood up there and said, look, she ain't never gonna have on stockings. She wears stilettos. She wear pencil skirts. That's what attracted her to me. She is my wife. If y'all want to call her first lady, that's fine, but she's my wife first. And it does make people start to see it through a different lens, because as much as people are there to please God and serve God, they also want to please the pastor. And so once they see that, okay, we're all on the same page, I think it starts to take a different turn. And I love that for you, because having that support and feeling protected by your husband, church or no church, that is going to be the most important thing for you. So I love that so much. And I hate to have to take another drastic pivot, but time is coming to a close. So I want to make sure that I know, that we talk about something else that we have not hit on, and I can't believe that we haven't. But it's not that kind of but I've heard you mentioned something about being able to be yourself, and then we talked about legislation and different things, and it just brought to my mind an experience that I had with one of my bonus daughters. Who would have ever thought that our hair would be a conversation of legislation and law? And so with one of my bonus daughters who has beautiful natural hair, she was just out of college and about to start interviewing for her real jobs, and she got the call that she had wanted to get for an interview for a position that she really wanted, and she had just done the bomb twist out. And y'all know how that twist out is when it's hitting right. You don't get them all the time. But her first thought was, oh my gosh, I have this interview, and now I got to get a silk press. Because she didn't feel as though she could walk into that interview as a Black woman and be taken seriously and be given a fair shot if she walked in with that bomb silk press. And so I just kind of wanted to talk about that. Like, why does there have to be, what is it, the Crown Law and all that? The Crown Act. Like, I love that, but it is just crazy how as Black women, we have had to go to the point to have acts and laws and legislation to wear our hair the way it naturally grows out of our head, or the way our ancestors have been doing it for years with the braids and the twist outs. What do y'all think about that?
I need to say this. I was at church one day, and my hair was like this. I don't really wear my natural hair out because it's hot, and I'm like burning up right now, and cannot wait to get my twist. And this lady said, "Oh, I see you with your first lady hair."
Okay, let me give you one. When I was a first lady, I thought you were going to have the same experience as mine, but it's similar. So when I was a first lady, I was just starting my natural hair journey, and I'm not a hair girl. So I was wearing my high puffs, doing the best I could do, trying to figure out what works for me, but I was wearing my hair natural and, presentable. But I decided I needed a trim and got a silk press. And so one of the mothers in our church was in intensive care, and my husband and I go to visit her. And now, mind you, she's a mother of the church, an older lady with a little natural afro that's cute. I walk into her intensive care suite and she looks at me and says, oh, thank goodness you got that mess straightened out, because you can't be walking around with that hair all nappy on your head. You a first lady. Now you look like a first lady. I couldn't get my hair into some water quick enough. And the self-hate I saw. Here you are, a black woman with your little natural afro, and you're telling me that I'm only appropriate now to be your first lady because I got a silk press.
But maybe she didn't like her hair.
And that's what I mean. It's the self-hate.
That's the self-hate. Because the one that said something to me, she was a bald-headed plug duck, and I was just like, okay. I'm like, oh.
I'm sorry, can we pause for a moment? A bald head, what now?
Plug duck. It's like, you know how you used to plug. That means that you didn't cut your hair short, it just ain't growing. That means,
Okay, all right then. Okay, that was a new one for me. I
I was like, what?
Right.
It's the self-hate.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
it said it in front of people, so I was like, oh, MG, like embarrassed, like, okay.
And that's how I was thinking too. Here you are, and you're focused on my hair, like you trying to live.
Yeah.
You got more important things to be worried about.
There's a professor, Dr. Nadia E. Brown, who talks about that, really much about assimilation, and how back in the 40s, that's when, black women had to assimilate. You had to, show up like a white woman to be accepted in certain spaces. So, that's just carried over through time. You're not acceptable. You're not accepted in those spaces unless you, look like them, unless your hair looks like them, you're dressed like them, your body is shaped like them, So, and them being white folks, of course. But, it's an innate thing. It really, really is, and coming into preference rather than necessity or fear is where we are now, I think. I think that's and I think we're in a beautiful space, and the Crown Act, of course, had to help people along.
Right, and I love that we have it, but I hate that we had.
Because it's a reproductive justice issue at heart. Like, it's an issue of bodily autonomy. Like, the idea that somebody thinks they have the audacity to tell us what to do with something that's on our hair. But it goes back to this challenge of this country wanting to regulate women's bodies, and from the beginning believing that black women's bodies belong to everybody but themselves. And so on the one hand, right, like, I'm glad that we have the advocacy to say, even in this way, we're going to advocate for the protection of our bodies. In the larger conversation of protection, because we got black men on board with that one because it impacts them too, because they wear their hair natural as well. We don't have collective cohesion, though, on this conversation of others getting to regulate our bodies when it comes to reproductive justice. And I would like to see us move and advance it there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just for black women when it comes to anything with our physical health. I mean, we have the highest mortality rate of any other race. No matter what it is, whether it's childbirth, hypertension, heart disease, whatever, because we're just not taken seriously. And it's almost like people think that we were put on this earth to endure pain. You can take it, you're fine. And I don't understand why we have to advocate for ourselves so hard for the simplest of things. And we aren't taken seriously, and our bodies aren't taken seriously. And when it comes to even, our sexual health and all of that, we, like other women, have experienced sexual abuse and rape and things like that. But how often are the perpetrators of our crimes ever brought to any type of justice? It's just that we have no rights. And that's why I hate going back to what we talked about earlier, why we are so against each other, because really we're all we have. All we have. Yes. No one else understands what we go through. No one else has our backs. And when I say no one, I use that loosely because, of course, we all have been fortunate to have those certain people. But as a whole, it's nobody. And so that's my thing with Hey Sis. It's like, hey sis, we need each other.
We need each other.
We'd run the country if we did.
I
mean, honestly, I am a 100% firm believer.
We would.
That
we are stronger
it would
together.
Be, yes. Oh no, we'd run it.
we're stronger.
And everyone would benefit.
Everyone.
You can't mess with a black woman. We're always caring for somebody, but also counting money.
Yeah,
I mean,
always.
But which is why DEI is such a conversation that is at the forefront, because it is not about black men. It is not about Hispanic women or Hispanic men. It is about black women. And everyone that you see that conversation targeted at, it is targeted at a black woman.
Yeah.
You know, and so help me understand why I have to be a DEI hire. I earned every single thing it is to get me to this point.
Beyond
I
what
earned
those
it.
of you have. Beyond what those who are talking about a DEI.
Yes.
I
Yes.
am, no.
Right,
okay, anyway.
right, absolutely. And so I think, you know, and then for us, for me, in some spaces, there are people who look like me who then carry that moniker on. Really? That's what you got.
Yeah.
That's what you got. You know,
Yes.
come on, let's be better. So,
Yeah,
but I want to go
agreed.
back to the hair thing that you were talking about, doing your hair. So when I was running for city council, I went natural in 2010, and that was before going natural was like this big thing. I was just tired of getting a relaxer, and you know, I was like, I don't want to be bothered anymore. So I was going natural, and so by the time I ran for city council, I was 100% natural, and I would wear, you know, maybe a roller set or a twist out. Sometimes my twist outs was the bomb, other times not.
You never know.
But I get elected, and the first conversation that I have is, what am I going to do with my hair? And you want me to flat iron my hair? You know, I haven't flat ironed my hair in 2.5 years. What am I supposed to do? So I wore my hair like that. And then the whole thing happened with Jacqueline Craig, right? And I went home and I shampooed my hair, and I was like, to hell with y'all. I'm gonna be natural, because now, and it took that moment to just say, you know what, I've been doing this, now I'm gonna have to do me. But we're to the end, and she's over here doing her fingers, and she's telling us we gotta wrap it up. So I don't care.
I didn't even look at Shelby.
Wrap it up.
We don't know. I know. And I had set my phone down, and I'm like, I don't see Shelby. I don't see Shelby.
Okay.
I done turned like this. Like,
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Don't put that in our email. Don't send me that I called Shelby out. Don't do that.
We are going to
I
be mindful of the time that we have, but just like many of the other conversations we had, it's like we have to revisit this one again, because we could go on and on and on. But we thank you all for joining us today, and please make sure that you like the AOC page. Follow for all the updates. If you haven't already given today on North Texas Day of Giving, make sure that you get those donations in. And I'm just going to let you close it out.
Well, girl, thank you. Thank you. Listen, she gave us a whole North Texas.
Yes. I want to make sure we got it in
So
there.
yes, please, because for those of you who have gotten a text message and email for the last 30 days about North Texas Giving Day, we are in the running to have a one-to-one match up to $20,000. And so we everything closes at 11:59 tonight, and I think we're about $3,000 short of our goal. We're $2,000 short of our goal, so of raising $20,000. So please help. Please know, ladies, that this is just the beginning of lots of conversations. Dr. Reed, thank you so much.
Thank you
for coming. To our good friend, Dr. Lakedra Brown, thank you for always being honest. To Tracy Scott, that's my girl forever and ever, and we just have all kinds of great conversations. And Stay, I love you for always showing up. You are the absolute best. Thank you so much.
Love you.
Please know that the conversations that we are having are not AOC's thoughts and opinions. They are our opinions.
Yes.
We are doing it on AOC's platform. So please don't anybody call me or email me tomorrow and say AOC said, because AOC did not say. Dr. Reed said, Stay said, Kelly said, Dr. Brown said, Tracy said. We said it, but we want you all to know that the conversations that we have here are for you to take these conversations and go have those conversations with other women in your lives so that we can continue to have whole, healthy, productive conversations so that we can remove that invisible stigma. We can stop being crabs in a bucket. We can lift each other up. We can vote for a Black woman who is running for president of the United States, who is going to get her Black job. So I'm Kelly Allen Gray. I'm the executive director of AIDS Outreach Center. I said it. I meant it. I'm sorry if you don't agree, but everyone gets to have your own opinion.
That's democracy.
That's democracy.
Yes.
That's what that is. It's North Texas Giving Day. We're $2,000 short of our goal. We'll see you in November.
Hey, sis.
Hey, sis. Don't